This segment will give you a better understanding about using the blade tips along with some of the more advanced features on the cutter controller. Let's review the different colored caps and the purpose. Now, as mentioned previously, there are 3 different colored caps for the cutting tool. They are color-coded to help identify which is which. The blue cap is designed for cutting thin materials, the yellow cap is designed for cutting a medium thickness, and the red cap is designed for cutting thicker materials. Each cap tip is made at a certain length, determining how much the blade is exposed. The more the blade is exposed, the deeper it can cut. Now that we have a better understanding of the cap, the question is, which cap do we use when cutting our different medias? That's the purpose of the cutter controller. It takes the guesswork out. You select the media from a list of medias, and it will let you know the type of blade cap you should use. It will also set the force and the speed as well. This ensures that all the settings are adjusted correctly before cutting our design on the silhouette. It also prevents us from having cutting mishaps because we accidentally forgot to change a setting or the cap. If you are new with using the cutter controller, at the top right corner is a button that can be of great help. By clicking on it, it will either hide or show the operational guide. By showing the operational guide, each time you are ready to cut a design, the operational guide will walk you through one setting at a time, as well as explaining the purpose of each setting. You may find that once you are familiar enough with the cutter controller, this feature can be turned off or disabled. To demonstrate how the cutter controller works, once our design is completed and the cutter controller window is displaying, the first step would be to select the type of media. This media type here will list some of the common medias and materials used with the silhouette. Once a media is chosen, immediately it shows the blade cap color we should use. It automatically sets the speed as well as the thickness, which determines the amount of force to use. What happens though, if perhaps we are using a new type of media, but we find that the current force or thickness is not enough to cut through it? For this reason, the controller allows us to adjust the thickness slider as well as the speed slider. We simply click on the Adjust Settings check mark and adjust the thickness and/or the speed. Moving the sliders to the right increases their value, and moving them to the left decreases their value. When making these adjustments, it's always a good idea to test the settings. We do this by loading the material onto the silhouette and then click on the Test button. The Test button shows the pattern it will cut, the triangle within the square. Click OK, and it will then cut the square and the triangle test pattern. Once it is cut, unload the media from the silhouette and remove the pattern. What we're looking for when removing the pattern is to make sure that the pattern has a clean cut. Not so deep that it cuts through the backing of the carrier sheet, or too light that it is difficult to remove. If we find the pattern is not to our liking, adjust the settings and click the Test button again. Once the adjustments are set correctly, then proceed to cut your design. Keep in mind though that the adjustment setting is temporary. In other words, the next time that media is selected, it will revert back to the original setting. If we find that we are constantly adjusting the settings every time we cut that media, the cutter controller allows us to create a new media type using Add Media button. If you click on it, this window opens where a new custom media type can be created. Start with a name, My New Media. We can then set the blade cap to whatever color we need, set the thickness, as well as increase or decrease the speed. Once all the settings are complete, click OK. Now instead of increasing the force every time we cut our new media, we select it from the list. One thing to keep in mind is that while media types and settings can be removed, it's an extra step that can be avoided. Therefore, we recommend that prior to creating a new media setting, test the settings first. Track enhancing refers to that action you see where the media is moved back and forth several times before cutting is started. The purpose of this feature is to improve the accuracy and quality of the cutting. It is performed automatically when the thickness exceeds a certain value. If you find that it is unnecessary, then uncheck the Track Enhancing checkbox by clicking on it. If you find that your media is slippery or somehow going off track while cutting, then it's usually best to keep Track Enhancing turned on. The orientation is a way of telling the cutter controller if the drawing is in landscape or portrait. When using RoboMaster, this setting is automatically set to the orientation of the design. This setting never has to be changed when the design is from RoboMaster. If you plan to use other graphic software applications, if need be, change the orientation to match the drawing. If you plan to print and cut your images, keep in mind that generally most graphic software applications will control this automatically. The blade position can set a new start point for your cut. This saves you the time of moving the head by using the arrow on the silhouette control panel. What some have found convenient is this button that can be of great help, where moving the head can be done by the arrow keys on your keyboard. Once the cutter controller settings are complete, we can then click the Cut button to cut our design. The controller will always verify that you are ready to cut by having this message pop up. This would be a good time to look over at your silhouette to check that your media is loaded and that the blade holder has the correct cutting cap. Click OK to start cutting. For more information on this segment, click here to access the manual. If you are in need of further assistance, email us at support@silhouetteamerica.com or call us at 1-800-859-8243.